Hello, my name is Michel Emond. This is a special edition of ThrivingLive1.tv. This is 2 years later. We are doing an interview about an update of my class action suit against the World Bank. And we're going to talk about Karen Udis, a lawyer who got fired from the World Bank. And I'm going to present my statement of claim today in this camera. And we'll definitely start with the logo, please. This is my newspaper in Vancouver called 30th Century Solutions. And there's only one way to stop wars and poverty, and that's to put the World Bank out of business. I'll definitely going to explain that later on in the show. We'll go with that website about the $50 trillion thing. This is very important. It's on the top left, it says who gets paid first. I'm going to talk about that for the Karen Udis video, because I will be using some information to win my court case at the International Criminal Court. And who gets paid first? The loans with the highest interest rates balanced with the smallest outstanding debts will be targeted first. The best approach is to minimize the amount of money lost to the debt holders in interest payments and reduce the amount of total individual loans that are owed. Additionally, no more money will disappear in penalty payments. Very important, you'll see why. On the right-hand side, there's a website here on this page about 49 trillion, 278 billion, 57 million. This represents the worldwide debt, according to this website. And I found a way to find this kind of money, what I'll explain later on in the show today. We're definitely going to go with the formula, please. Now, on the top left column, it says number 1 to 5 represents all 7 continents on this planet. And I did a rough estimate of how much money actually is made in one single day worldwide. And I'll give you an example. Let's say in Canada, there's 5 million workers and at $15 an hour, and that represents $75 million daily. And this is only Canada. Then we have US figures, European figures, and Asian and African figures. And we're going to put this kind of, we will display this kind of income that is regenerated every day, daily, across the 24-hour time zone of this economy. And I'm going to get to that, explain that in a few seconds, what I'm talking about here. So let's go to the next formula. Okay, on the bottom, very bottom, there's an amount. It says 87 billion 254 million. This is a daily estimate of what is being done in one single day, times 256 countries. In the middle of the box, it came out, I didn't even come out with $1 trillion. But this is daily. So, right off the bat, I managed to find $1 trillion and I didn't even do any kind of work here. So this formula is definitely what we're going to use to our advantage. And we're going to put this proposal to a worldwide vote. We're definitely going to go to my court case now. We're going to go to the 18 judges. We'll start with this letter. This represents the letter I received from the ICC 2 years ago, and it clearly says in this letter that the decision not to proceed may be reconsidered if new facts or evidence provide a reasonable basis to believe that a crime within the jurisdiction of the court has been committed, which means all I have to do is 2 years later is prove what I've been trying to do for 2 years now. And that's to take the World Bank to the International Criminal Court, and I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things here right now. Let's go to the 18 judges. Now, this is first step of the my court case. This is the 18 judges at the ICC. I will be entering a pre-trial, and there's 5 judges there who's going to consider my case, and I can always appeal. So, and I am entitled to 1 day in court, no matter what happens. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do an interview with Karen Hudes, the one that she came out with, and we're going to proceed with this interview. It's about 7 minutes, and after this interview, I'm going to present my court case against the World Bank, count number 1.
What if I told you that the most powerful banking entity in the world was laundering money, and that its corporate bureaucrats go to great lengths to make sure that their illegal activities are never discovered? Well, right now you're probably thinking that's not news, but stay with me here. The World Bank is an international financial institution that's designated to help developing countries by providing loans, all in the name of, quote, reducing global poverty. However, the banking giant has been accused of actually increasing poverty by keeping the third world in perpetual debt and in servitude to the first world. But aside from its obvious critiques, there's also blatant criminal corruption taking place at the highest levels of the financial institution. One woman has risked everything to shed light on this truth. She's exposed information that reveals the extent of the collusion between financial groups and foreign governments. Her name is Karen Hudes. She was senior counsel at the World Bank for 12 years before blowing the whistle. She's joining me now to talk about her experience and what it all means for the rest of us. I'm joined by Karen Hudes. Thank you so much for coming on, Karen.
Thanks for having me.
So could you briefly explain what the impetus was for you to speak out? What did you see?
I was a lawyer, and I saw securities fraud. I saw financial information that was not being disclosed to $180 billion worth of bondholders. It was my job to make sure that the financial statements were correct. So first, I reported it up the corporate ladder to the audit committee. When that didn't work, I went to the U.S. Treasury Department. And when that didn't work, I went to the U.S. Congress. Senator Lugar wrote 3 letters to the World Bank saying, don't fire this lady. And they promptly fired me. This means that the U.S. Congress does not have the information that it needs. So they stuck with the problem. After I was fired, 3 senators asked for a GAO inquiry into the corruption that I was reporting at the World Bank. Senators Lugar, Leahy, and Bai.
Walk us through what exactly, where was this money being laundered, to whom?
The money was going every which way because anybody that reported misconduct was fired. So in one case, the borrowers were being overcharged. In another case, I was reporting corruption in the Philippines. $900 million worth of money that should have gone to fight poverty in the Philippines instead went to a corrupt man, Lucio Tan, who was in default on his loans. Philippine National Bank went into default. There was a run on the bank. Philippine National, the investment company tried to bail out the bank for $500 million. And then the board was lied to. And my story is about trying to uncover the cover-up. The cover-up went all the way to Congress, and then it went to 188 ministers of finance. So this is corruption in the entire world. And until it's set straight, what we're going to have is we're going to have a currency war.
So you think that this was just a microcosm of what's happening across the entire institution? You just saw one aspect of this kind of laundering.
It wasn't just me. There's a group of World Bank whistleblowers. There's one of us from the United Kingdom. There's one of us from Mexico. There's one of us from India. There's one of us from Ethiopia. And we're all reporting the same thing, corruption from top to bottom of that institution. The money's going every which way, but where it needs to go to fight poverty.
And so you said that you were kind of stifled. You went to the government and then you had a couple senators on your side, congresspeople. What of the corporate press? You said that you continuously tried to go to them with the story to cover it, and you were shunned as well.
Absolutely, and the reason why I found out, it's because the corporate press is owned by one mega conglomerate. All of the financial institutions in the world, just about, are part of this scheme to rip off everybody, every single citizen on this planet. That's what I'm talking about. And it's not just my idea. There was a very accurate report on this from the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Switzerland. 3 mathematicians looked at accurate corporate data on 43,000 transnational companies, and they reported that through very clever interlocking corporate directors, these groups managed to grab 10 times the power than they otherwise had in their finances. So they own 40% of the assets of all of the companies traded on the capital markets of the world, and they own 60% of the earnings for every year. This means that the central banks for the world are issuing paper money with absolutely no accountability to the people who are using this money. And pretty soon, in a matter of weeks probably, the whole system is going to come to a screeching halt with something called gold backwardation.
Well, let's back up a little bit because, I mean, basically there's no oversight over these institutions. Aside from laundering money, plainly, they're also laundering money offshore, hidden in these bank accounts, offshore bank accounts. I want to talk about how much power the banking system really has over geopolitics. I mean, you just broke down that all of these people are kind of interlocking. Would you say that they control the government as well?
Absolutely. What I have documented is state capture. I tried to have information go to the voters before the presidential elections because Robert Zellick was Mitt Romney's national security transition planning chief. CBS wouldn't report it. If the voters don't know who they're voting for, I asked CBS to have a question on international corruption. They figured the American public didn't need to know. So if the public doesn't know what's really going on, then you don't have a democracy, and that's what we're talking about.
Can you name any names of who you think are the real power players here? Because I know that, you know, if a little bit of digging can really reveal who these people are that are kind of pulling the strings here.
What you need to do is you need to look at the ownership of these corporations. They're the ones that we hear about all the time. Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
You were talking about Bank of America. They are actually all one bank. That's what happened when we saw the LIBOR crisis. These institutions are one big conglomerate that think they control the world, and they think they're above the law, and they're not.
What about the guise of the IMF and World Bank kind of looking back since you served so long into this institution? What do you think about kind of what they present and sell themselves to the entire world? I mean, the whole structural adjustment policies, keeping the third world perpetually in debt. I mean, do you think that's just an entire ruse to maintain their profit structure?
I think these are institutions that, if they're cleaned up, can do a lot of good. They can provide a basis for a peaceful transition. It's very clear that we need to have some regularity in our international financial system. We need what we certainly don't need is a currency war, and that's what we're on track for, unless and until we start to get to the bottom of this corruption. And it's very simple, actually, to do, because most of the people know that the corporate media, 70% of the Americans in a recent Gallup poll distrust their media, because it's owned by these banks.
Karen, to wrap it up, why do you think that whistleblowers such as yourself, obviously exposing this massive corruption within these financial institutions, are not incurring the full wrath of the state as we see as somewhere like Edward Snowden or Bradley Manning?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's because we have the people behind us and enough people know about us, and because we're working together. But I have to say that I'm very curious as to why the media is now covering Eric Snowden. I'm worried that this is to get people riled up, when what they really need to know is that I have told all of the ministers of finance, I have told all of the governors, I have told all of the state attorneys general. I bought a bond and I had a lawsuit, and 188 ministers of finance settled my lawsuit. It's Eric Holder who's holding up the settlement of my case.
Well, I won't deny that we have some criminals in the government. Karen, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely be following your case and covering it as it develops. Karen Hedges, former senior counsel at the World Bank. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Karen Hedges is on fire. She has a lot of information that I need, and she mentions money laundering, transfer payments going missing, and whistleblowers, and this is the kind of people that I've been waiting for to appear. And as of today, I will subpoena Karen Hedges to appear at the International Criminal Court. And so I'm going to explain my court case right now, and how I'm going to defeat the World Bank by using Karen Hedges information, and I will have to subpoena her as of today. because I need the information that she talks about because it is admissible in the courts. So as of today, I subpoena Karen Udis to appear at the International Criminal Court, and she has now been properly notified. So we're definitely going to go over that letter again. The World Bank, World versus the Bank. Yes, that's the one. Now this is there's 142 organizations here. They mentioned that the World Bank is unfit to manage this global climate fund, and these 142 organizations will be subpoenaed too. And all this started in 2009. And definitely go with the next document, please. World Bank Debt and Facts. I believe that's the one, eh? World Bank Debts and Facts. Maybe go to the next one, just to see if that's the right one. Okay, so we're not going to worry about it. I'm just going to say what it says. It's about the Forest Carbon Fund project. And between 1970 and 2002, the poorest African countries received $294 billion in loans. They repaid $298 billion in penalties, interest, and principal, and they still owed $200 billion. So this is the kind of information that Karen Udis is talking about, and we're definitely we need a solution to these kind of situations, and I definitely going to talk about count one of the common plan or conspiracy. You can take that document off. And okay, so count one of the common plan or conspiracy against peace, statement of the offense. So let me see. Okay, so genocide might also be considered as homicide, and it is in the tribunal jurisdiction, and a disturbance to all international relations, and is a danger to peace. Same with the Forest Carbon Fund project, and I'm looking for death records here to prove this case. So therefore, everything is open for arguments. We need to review the loans that the World Bank made to certain groups in certain countries. I need to review them because it is admissible in the courts, and I will be asking that from Karen Udis and others. And the ICC has to review and welcome new ideas which might improve and contribute to the development of international law and peace. It is the tribunal which is called upon to decide whether those acts or omissions are under international law. The mere existence of a conspiracy not resulting in war would generally be excluded from the tribunal's jurisdiction. However, crimes against humanity are in their jurisdiction, so therefore it is open for arguments, and this is my statement of claim against the World Bank, is the crimes against humanity, and I'm going to prove this in the courts. Now, has there been one death of any kind, any riot from any tiny community in the Far South or anywhere resulting from this Forest Carbon Fund project? Yes, there has been. And I will find my death records with the 142 organizations. I only have to convince the 18 judges at the ICC. As of now, I'm protected from any international law until I get my day in court. And I do have a case. And Karen Udis talks about transfer payments. This is definitely what we're going to be, my court case is going to be all about, and she has to appear at the ICC. I am on my way to The Hague, and the World Bank's mission to reduce poverty is in question. The government's so-called mission to reduce the debt is in question too. And if governments depends on the market and cannot control any situation concerning the economies, we have to find our own solutions, and I have a plan. And there's a lot of interested people who's going to be very interested about what I'm going to say next, and I think we're going to carry on with the plan. For sure. So, what would happen if the world had no debt? Well, we're going to put this proposal to a worldwide proposal on the. We're going to vote on this proposal that I'm talking about right now, and this document is going to be, that's not long enough for document, so you can read that document at home, and we'll definitely go with the calendar. Sure. Now, this is the first 12 months will have 28 days. On the 13th month, we'll have 30 days. On the 13th month, this is where we're going to find $50 trillion. Okay. Yeah, all money will be monitored so that everybody can see and display daily worldwide, and daily TV stations or cable TV, and we'll have screens all over the place, and you'll see how much money that is collected daily in 254 countries times 30 days. This will add up close to 50 trillion. And we're going to put this proposal to a worldwide vote. Let's go with the rules and the ballot. Okay, we need some kind of rules, so here we are. And basically, we're going to leave that on for a few more seconds there so they can read that for themselves at home. That way it's easier for me to not just leave it on the screen for a few more seconds. And basically, we're going to end this show pretty fast here. So I'm going to quickly say one last thing. This little document is not for the average person to. I'm concentrating on a certain group of people who I know is going to help me. You can take the document off. And these people that I've been emailing for the last 6 months, you know who you are. And I'm looking for death records, and just be ready to be subpoenaed. And also, when you go to court, you don't go to court to lose. So I will find my death records, and I will be doing a lot of subpoenas when I get back to Vancouver after I return from The Hague. And I'll be appearing at the press conference at the ICC. They have a press room in there. So I'm going to deliver my count one against the World Bank, and including all the directors of the World Bank has to be notified too. And I've done that a few months ago. So it looks like I'm ready to go to court. And all I need now is to subpoena Karen Nudis, and it's an open and shut case, and that's the way it's going to go. Thank you very much for your time, and stay tuned to ThrivingLive1.tv for a really special update in January for 2014 after I return from The Hague.